Plan to sell me drugs, guns, lorry loads, millions of dollars of counterfeit currency, and sometimes they hired me to kill people.
Really?
Yeah.
And so what was it like doing undercover work? Oh, obviously you were a duck to water.
It was frigging terrifying.
Well, I bet it was.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of the time, but it was also great fun.
Yeah.
Because many of the criminals that I spent time with were wonderful characters, and if only they'd chosen a different path in life, I think they would have been equally as successful.
And of course, what you did, you were on the front line, you were able to do what you wanted, which was to police. One of the things I hear from my friends who are in the police force is that actually they spend too much time filling in paperwork, sitting at desks, not actually doing what they want to do. Now, just in terms of everything that we've highlighted in London, whether it's about crime generally or the fact that we've got these terrible statistics on rape, whatever it is, what is going wrong in London?
First of all, and it grieves me sorely to have to say this, we cannot trust these crime statistics. The picture is actually, as far as I'm concerned, far, far worse. And my evidence to support that is that I spend a lot of time travelling around London on a daily basis. I sometimes sit in green rooms, for example, where other guests are being brought on to broadcast on any given channel. And I ask these people whether they gravitate towards me with their crime stories, often young women who have been harassed, assaulted on the transport network or on the streets, or had their phones stolen, or often a lot worse crimes. And when I say to them, my one question, did you report this? Unfortunately, they shrug their shoulders, look at me and go, what's the point?
Yeah.
Because they feel they are not going to get a...
Yeah.
They feel that they will not get a prompt and professional investigation, so therefore they think there's absolutely no point.
Well, I think many people report it to get a crime reference number, don't they? So they
Yes.
can actually then claim the insurance on the back of it. What about priorities for the Met? You know, this idea that Sadiq Khan is spending more on net zero than he is actually in terms of frontline policing, that cannot be right, can it?
Every day when I don't hear the name Sadiq Khan is a good day. Sadly, we're hearing it's a lot to see.
We are.
Pious little man.
So can I just ask you, let's just go back to your time in the force and people who are joining the force now. What I'm hearing, and I've interviewed a lot of police officers, is that actually the experienced ones have had enough and they're leaving. We've got lots of junior police officers coming in. They don't have the supervision of the older police officers, so they haven't learned the trade, but also they're not allowed to actually do what they want to do.
True, in many regards. I unashamedly love the policing family. But when I say that, I mean the front line.
Yep.
I am frequently contacted, sometimes by officers, but predominantly by their parents, because they feel if they contact directly an oik like me, their career might be in jeopardy. I mean, what nonsense is that? But their parents contact me and they say, do you know what? My son or my daughter actually loves the job when they are allowed to get out there and guess what? Nick bad people.
Yep.
They still love doing that, the front line.
They do.
And I have nothing but respect for them who want to do that. Trouble is, they spend far too much time sitting around in A&E, for example, with someone who's in the midst of a mental health crisis.
Yep.
Or they're dragged off of what would be frontline facing duties to do the guarding of prisoners and other vulnerable people and the such like. We've also got huge problems with senior police ranks and police leaders, the length and breadth of the country, because in 1997, when Tony Blair got elected, rude a day, and political correctness became a thing, what actually happened was that the seeds, the tentacles of what we are now faced with, where we are crippled in so many public services by DEI and the such like, and people are not promoted on merit, they're promoted on whether they can sing from the right song sheet or not. What has actually happened is those tentacles have never been stripped out, and policing itself has been gripped by a kind of liberal, fluffy, progressive kind of mindset.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Which has taken it away from what the public want. What do the public want? They want to see their police. They want them to patrol. They want them to prevent crime. They want them to investigate crime and come straight back to it. They want them to nick bad people.
Quite right. Well said, Peter. So, Peter, when Reform UK becomes the government of this country and you become the head of the police service, or you are put in charge, which I think actually many people would like, what would you do overnight to change the public's perception in the police to ensure that the public trust the police once again?
Well, first of all, I'd call Colin Sutton governor. Because he's got to be in charge. He's a much safer pair of hands than me. He left policing far more recently than I did, and he hasn't got half the skeletons in the cupboard that I have. Although I've told about most of them, which is why I'd be absolute cannon fodder for the tabloids. There needs to be a refocus on the policing that the public want. There needs to be a complete reconnection. Unfortunately, I think during COVID, certain senior police officers enjoyed the kind of autocratic powers that were so hurriedly rushed through Parliament, and some police actually liked that. The streets were deserted, so crime was way down, and they were able to issue fines for people drinking cups of coffee, for example. Later rescinded, I remember, but that kind of thing. And I think there's been a bit of a hangover. Police has got to get back to policing. I'm pleased by some of the recent noises in relation to non-crime hate incidents.
Yes.
But until the appalling College of Policing, that kind of think tank that's not really fit for duty, until that gets kicked into touch, until the National Police Chiefs Council actually reconnects with what the British people want, and therefore that floods down to the front line, policing is still going to be crippled by the problems that plague it today.
So just very quickly and finally, if I may just ask you, I went to Tesco today. I had to buzz the door to get the doors open.
Yep.
This is how bad crime is in East London.
Yep.
The last government and this current government have effectively decriminalised crime. You can nick 199 quid's worth of steak and walk out and no one will do anything, and I've watched them do it. You can do that on the tube, no one will stop you. Just in terms of that, is the answer to tackle low-level crime, rather like Giuliani did in New York? And if we do that, and if you stamp out low-level crime, does that make a difference?
There's no such thing as low-level crime. You imagine you've spent a lot of money on your bike and you travel to and from work on that every day, and that gets stolen. That's not a low-level crime.
No, sure.
Having your phone nicked is not a low-level crime. We're all handcuffed to these things. We rely on them. We conduct our lives through them. I don't like that kind of terminology. It's not low-level to a victim. Unfortunately, and I'll try and shrink this answer as much as I can, the entire criminal justice system is in crisis. From policing at the front line through to the Crown Prosecution Service, underfunded, not as effective as it should be. Then we get to the courts, crumbling buildings, leaking roofs, IT that doesn't work, and some courts that would work sitting empty because judges aren't presiding. Then we go to the prisons. I'm sure everybody in this room knows about the crisis facing our prisons today. And then we get to the back end of it, the probation service, who are only effectively managing about a quarter of their workload. That whole criminal justice system needs to be made fit for purpose so that it serves the public and not criminals.
Yeah, well, very well said, Peter. Well, I think what the country needs is common sense policing from common sense police officers or former police officers like yourself. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Bleksley. Right, I'm just going to come over. This is the bit you don't want, isn't it? I just want to... I'm going to talk to Sarah Pochin, actually, because I've missed you. I haven't seen you for a few days. Hello. Oh, wow. Lucky me. Just in terms of your constituency, we're talking about London tonight, but just in terms of your constituency, what are you seeing on the ground in terms of crime, what Peter says isn't low-level crime?
One of the worst things that happens in my constituency, which is Runcorn and Helsby, now on the streets of Runcorn, we're getting so much crime on these e-scooters and e-bikes, and it's definitely drug running. And the police, the problem is the police, there's not enough police to go out and patrol these streets, and it's in council estates, housing estates, and it's a real problem because the kids are getting involved at night time, and you've got crime on the streets. So what we need to do as Reform is get more money invested back into bobbies on the beat that can go out, patrol these areas and nick these guys, just as Peter's just said.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want, common sense policing, isn't it?
Common sense policing.
Like Peter Blexley. Sarah, really good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. All right, let's go over here. What I just wondered, does anyone else have a story about crime? Hello, Andrea, how are you? Let's come over to you. As a mayor, what are you seeing on the streets?
I mean, it's basic stuff, antisocial behaviour, which is right across the country, and there's no place of consequence. That's the issue. Rural crime, white van man crime.
That's also very interesting, isn't it? Rural crime. That's something we don't talk about. I live in the country, but obviously huge problems with rural crime.
Absolutely, and it's just not getting tackled whatsoever. And then on top of that, you have, I mean, we have a lot of seasonal crime because we've got lots of seaside areas, but you don't get the extra police resources at the seaside area at the peak times, which is issues as well.
Well, lovely to see you.
And
Thank you
well,
very
David.
much indeed.
Thank you.
Does anyone have a story about crime, having their phone nicked, or anyone want to share anything? Not at the moment. I mean, it is absolutely extraordinary how people lose their phones, they get their phones nicked. In fact, I was talking to someone who's had their phone stolen 3 times. They didn't report it. There's no point. They want the insurance. And, of course, what we're doing is essentially decriminalising crime generally. Let's move on, though. I now want to talk to an incredible woman, actually. She is a councillor for Westminster. She is doing a tremendous job. She also manages to juggle 7, yes, wait for that, 7 children. Her name is Layla Cunningham. Let's see her story.
I ask myself every single day, how the hell did we get here? And it's because of the political choices made by Labour and Conservatives. And they repeat the same empty line. We're tough on crime. No, they're not. They've left us with no police, no prisons, and no border control. The Tories in 14 years led in 6.5 million people. Thousands upon thousands of unvetted men who don't share our values and don't respect women. And if you dare complain, they call you racist or far right and arrest you for hate speech. Britain doesn't need more speech laws. It needs more police, more prison cells, and a justice system that actually protects the public, not censors it. This isn't just incompetence, it's a betrayal. It's proof that Labour and Conservatives have stopped fighting for you. We will be the toughest, clearest, most unapologetic government on crime this country has ever seen. It's finally our turn. It's time to put British people first. It's time for reform.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Councillor Layla Cunningham. I think it's fair to say you have burst onto the scene. You are literally on every single television screen. Every time I turn on, you're doing an incredible job. I don't know how you do that, manage 7 children. But look, you're in the office with me. I don't think I've met anyone who is as passionate as you are. You are determined to make a difference. What's it been like, that journey for you, into the public eye and the spotlight?
It's been interesting. I mean, you say I've got 7 children, but they're all teenagers, so
they want
nothing
children.
Well, they want nothing to do with me.
Oh, well, fine.
You know, teenagers are a special breed.
Yeah, well, they are.
They're not the nicest of people at all times, but it's been, you know what it is? It's been amazing because I feel like I'm in therapy. I can finally say what I've always felt. It was very difficult being part of the Conservatives because you were sent to sell something that you didn't believe in. And now I'm finally part of a party that prioritises Britain and prioritises the British public, which is very, very refreshing. And the other parties, when you're in the Conservatives, it's always how can the Conservatives maintain power. It's how to maintain the party. Whereas, as you and I know, David, in the reform, it's what does the country need? And that's where we take it from. And it's a very different type of politics.
So let me just take you back to when you first stood. Why did you decide to stand as a councillor?
Because I was tired of politicians destroying my city. I was tired of my kids getting mugged. I was tired of antisocial behaviour plaguing my city. I was a criminal prosecutor. I was tired of a criminal justice system that let criminals get away. Every time I'd enter Sainsbury's, I'd see a bunch of people walk out with stuff for free. I was sick and tired of it, and I said I'm going to stop complaining and stand up.
Well done for doing that. I mentioned right at the beginning of this programme, I've lived here since I was 18 years old. I do not recognise this city anymore in so many ways. And of course, crime is a huge concern, but actually, safety on the streets. I'm seeing graffiti on the tube. I haven't seen that for many, many years. I'm seeing antisocial behaviour. I'm seeing gangs of kids just hanging out. We've also got all these terrible statistics on knife crime, for example, those rape statistics. Huge problems, not just for women and girls, but actually for people who are walking home late at night, people on shift work as well. Does that accord with what you're seeing?
100%. I mean, we have a mayor that's effectively deprioritised public safety. He's cut visible policing. He's halved stop and search. He's even managed to politicise that. And he's cut police counters. He's cut police stations. And now he's cutting police from the royal parks. He effectively, as crime goes up, he cuts police. And as a criminal prosecutor, you know, people say, oh, you always bang on about illegal migration. You know, it doesn't affect you that much. Actually, as a criminal prosecutor in Westminster, about 70% of the defendants were illegal migrants, and they were, you know, they get public defence. I had one defence lawyer stand up and say, you know, Judge, my client just arrived on a boat, so we have to take into account how difficult that must have been. And of course, Judge, he can't work because he's illegal, so what's he supposed to do? He has to steal. And you'd think the judge will be like, I don't care. No, the judge says, you know, why don't we order a probation report, get to know more about him, and see what the state, what you all can pay for him to make him better. And that was constant. I had to prosecute someone in a burqa. I asked the judge, can the defendant remove the burqa? And she said, no, you know, Madam Prosecutor, these are religious sensitivities. And she cannot remove the burqa. So I had to prosecute a faceless person. But
that's unacceptable.
Completely unacceptable, even in the Middle East, where my parents are from. You cannot rock up to court with your face fully covered.
So let's just go back to that. So are the judges hopelessly out of touch? Are they just scared of upsetting?
I think they're scared.
They're scared?
They're scared because we have politicians that have completely lost common sense, and they've deprioritised the British public. They've deprioritised the people that have built this city. You know, I have residents whose children are number 400 on the list for social housing. Someone who's just arrived is at the top of the list.
Yeah.
How is that fair? I have a woman who's a resident, she's a bus driver. She cries to me and she says, you know, I've been a bus driver for 20 years. I'm so tired. I can't take a holiday. She says, but the person, she says, I get no help because she's just above that threshold for work where she doesn't really get help with her rent. And but you know, she says, that just means I'll work harder. And that is a British value. But she says the person next door has just arrived, doesn't speak English, got a 3-bedroom flat for free.
So that's really interesting. As I go around the country, I keep saying that is what people are telling me. It doesn't matter where I am in the country. This is about fairness, or the lack of fairness in this country. And that is what is so upsetting to British people, which is actually they are not being looked after properly. We are not putting British people first, and we need to do that and do it urgently.
It's about respect. It's respecting the people that built this country. It's respecting the people that built this city. And the political class doesn't respect that anymore. And I don't feel that they prioritise us. And that's why I joined Reform, because I feel there is a really strong priority. We're not ashamed to be patriotic, but the political class have made it shameful to love your country, shameful to have family values. And that has to be reversed because...
well, one of the other things that I keep saying is actually we're a relatively small party. You know, we have 5 members of Parliament, 2 marvellous mayors and so on. We also have 265,000 members as of today, so I'm delighted by that. But it's amazing, isn't it? We're on the front page of every single national newspaper almost every single day.
Yes.
And I think the reason for that is we are not afraid to say things that the rest of the political establishment simply will not say. But it is what people are saying in the pubs, they're saying it in social clubs, they're saying it all over the streets, the towns, the villages.
And in those towns and villages, they've seen some of their towns and villages change. It's become unrecognisable. And I get sometimes... I was speaking at an event and someone said, oh, you know, they were talking about Islam and how it's a problem. And someone said, oh, it's a cult. And there was kind of an uncomfortable moment because I'm Muslim. But there are Muslim communities that come to this country and expect the country to change for them.
Yes.
And if the country doesn't change for them, they say you're racist. But there is nothing racist about wanting to protect your values, your way of life in this country. That's patriotism. And that's something that I believe Reform stands for, and other political parties have not.
So does that make you... So does that help you? Because you can actually say, I am Muslim, I can't possibly be being racist. Does that help you in your arguments when certainly the broadcasters will level accusations at you?
Yeah.
They would certainly level at me or many of our MPs, for example.
Oh, they still level it. But because they will, no matter what you do, you could get, you know, it doesn't really matter who you are. But there's nothing racist about wanting to preserve your way of life. There's nothing racist about loving Britain and wanting to preserve British way of life. And it is, I think if you went to any country and you can't rock up to a country and say, I want it to change, and the people say, okay, we're tolerant, but we're not suckers. And I think that's what the people have to understand. And I think we've been shut up for too long.
I would agree.
I feel it.
And just in terms of that, I think we're all in agreement that actually what we need to do urgently is boot Sadiq Khan out of office immediately. If you were elected Mayor of London, what would you do differently? How would you actually sort this city out?
So I think the number one priority for Londoners, I mean, I'm born and raised here, and as you say, I've never seen it like this. You know, I used to play basketball in some of the roughest part of London. From the age of 10, I'd be on the tube by myself, and my parents never were worried that I'd be mugged or knifed or, you know, and now I do for my kids. So I think I'd want to see boots on the streets. I want to see every high street patrolled, and I want a message to police officers, because like Peter Blexley, I think the police are great. You know, I've worked very closely with the police. They put their life on the line for us for very little, and I think they should be respected, and they're not getting that respect. They want a mayor who says, we've got your back.
Quite right.
You do what it takes to keep us safe. We're not going to persecute you. We want you to prosecute, and we want a zero-tolerance approach. You steal something, you're going to pay for it. And you steal something from a high street, you're going to be banned from that high street for 3 years, just like we do for football banning orders. I want to see criminal behaviour orders that bans people from streets. I want to see police in hotspots, out of a nightclub. Women are so scared to get an Uber. There is a rape epidemic in London, and that's Uber drivers, black cab drivers, your workmate, and if you commit a sexual assault, I want them to know that you're going to prison for a very long time. There is no second, you know, there is no leniency when it comes to criminals, because Sadiq Khan effectively is only focused on punishing motorists.
Yeah.
You know, but he's deprioritised crime, and that's unacceptable.
So finally, if I may just ask you, I mentioned this earlier, we need to find more councillors, particularly in London, actually. The task is enormous. What would you say to people who are sitting there thinking, well, maybe I should try, maybe I should stand?
So I have been doing a tour of London and speaking at a lot of branches, and what I get is people tell me I'll get fired if I stand. I'm scared of being called racist. So when Keir Starmer called us racist, he shut down the democratic process because people are scared of being called racist. That's what he did inadvertently. It wasn't only a smear. But what I'll tell people to standing up, when you stand for London, when you stand for local elections, you're standing against everything that you hate about the country, and it all starts locally. You're standing against a government that works for the bureaucracy and stopped working for you. A government that takes your money and you don't see anything in return. You can't get a GP appointment, you don't see police, and your schools are crumbling. You're fighting that, and you're fighting, more importantly, against a government overreach who wants to take away your freedom of speech, who wants to give you the digital ID, which will mean that your rights now will become privileges. That's what you're fighting, and it starts at a local level. It's not only bins and housing, it's a lot more. And it's time that we told London, reforms arrived, and we're here to stay, and we're not going anywhere.
I love that. I love that. Reform has arrived. Well, look, I think you're doing a tremendous job, and I think everyone here would agree. Ladies and gentlemen, Councillor Layla Cunningham. Well, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we've heard from three extraordinary voices about the challenges facing London. Thank you so much to Alex Wilson, to Peter Blexley and also Layla Cunningham for their candour, their insights and also what drives them and how they believe that we really can change London for the better. The message on the ground here in the capital city couldn't be clearer. London is broken and London needs reform. Until next time, from all of us here, a very good evening.